going to go over a few things. We're going to be going over some unfortunate news in the cryptocurrency space coming out of Puerto Rico. Also going to be going over a big layoff in the cryptocurrency space, and then getting into the price of Bitcoin, how things are looking, talking a little bit about FOMC, interest rates, what we're kind of anticipating, and whether we get what it's looking like to be 50 basis points or 75 basis points, how that is going to probably affect the price tomorrow. So, and this really unfortunate story coming out, I believe it's a co-founder of MakerDAO, was found dead in Puerto Rico, in the Condado area, which is basically my backyard. So, you know, I really don't like to, I guess you could say, I'm really trying to word this properly, so hopefully I get this right. But from going over tweets from Nikolai, I can't pronounce his last name, there is a lot of signs that point towards the fact that he was suffering from a mental illness. And I only say that because of personal experience that I have with someone who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, very similar things with like the paranoia, thinking that people are spies, the CIA, just a lot of overlap, to be honest with you. So I believe he was found dead within the last couple of days. So this was his last tweet. CIA and Mossad and pedo elite are running some kind of sex trafficking, entrapment, blackmail ring out of Puerto Rico and Caribbean islands. They're going to frame me with a laptop planted by my ex-girlfriend who is a spy. They will torture me to death. It seems like it was a drowning situation in the Condado area. And so just a really unfortunate and sad situation. He was only 29 years old. And it seemed like he wasn't too fond of the recent partnership with MakerDAO and them staking, or Coinbase staking a bunch of MakerDAO on their platform. So I really didn't dive too deep into this story because it's really depressing and I don't really want to, but that is the information that we have there. My thoughts are with his family members and may he rest in peace. Just a really unfortunate situation coming out of Puerto Rico. So another thing here, just in crypto exchange, BitMEX fires 30% of its staff. So not even a layoff. BitMEX has just let go of 1/3 almost of their staff, which is quite high. It's information like this that makes me thinking that there is still that possibility that the bottom is not in. So I mentioned in my previous video how I thought that there is a possibility that the bottom is not in, but that I was not going to chase Bitcoin and I still wanted to see a bit more price action before making that decision. And so let's go and jump to the price of Bitcoin. But before that, I quickly want to go over iTrust Capital. So what people should understand about iTrust Capital is that there are a ton of benefits. One of the great benefits about iTrust Capital is that you can actually trade and not create a taxable event. That is huge. Some people overtrade so much to the point, and once they consider in taxes, they're not even profitable anymore. They're way in the negative. So imagine only having to pay a 1% fee on your trades, and it's not a taxable event, okay? So you can create a Roth IRA with iTrust Capital. They offer Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, also precious metals. So I have a link down below if you want to get started to get $100 of free Bitcoin, which is very exciting. So now on to the price of Bitcoin. We're going to start with that weekly chart because on my previous video, this is what I went over yesterday. So the weekly chart has a few things here that make me believe that the bottom could be in. And, you know, one of the reasons why I was not chasing the price of Bitcoin is because I knew of the meeting coming up, right? We have the meeting coming up. It's today, I believe it's tomorrow as well, and they're probably going to be making that announcement tomorrow. Another thing to consider is that we have CPI numbers coming out soon. So a few things here. This green moving average is making its way a lot closer to the red. And when that crossover happens, I believe it is time to get in on Bitcoin. It's kind of like, hey, last call, time to get in. And if you haven't watched my previous videos, I've done the back test on making this trade with these two moving averages, which if you want to add them to your chart, here's how you do it. They're EMAs, okay? And the red is a 12 and the green is a 5, okay? And in Bitcoin's history, anytime the 5 is crossed over the 12, the green is crossed over the 12, okay, it's time to get in on the 7-day chart. And anytime that it's crossed below, it's time to get out. And if you did that, if you started with like 100 Bitcoin, and you did only that trade since the beginning of Bitcoin's time, you'd have 300 Bitcoin now. So not a bad idea. So obviously it hasn't quite made the crossover, but it's making its way. It's getting pretty close. This is what I could see happening. I could see, because I do not believe that inflation is really being tamed and that we're still going to see some pretty high numbers coming out next week, I believe it's going to be. So I think that the green is going to get close to crossing over the red. This is one of my predictions of possibilities that could happen. And right when that announcement happens, Bitcoin is going to drop. But time will tell. Another thing here is this green 2 trading above the green 1. Very bullish sign there. So, you know, Bitcoin is looking quite primed on the weekly chart, but I am looking for more validation on lower level time frames, okay? So what else do we got here? So take a look here at the daily chart. We're seeing Bitcoin pull back a little bit here. It's cooling off. Obviously, it got rejected. Just so if you guys want to add these to your charts, the red is a 50, the yellow is 100, and the green is a 200 DMA. Okay, and so we're seeing a little bit of a pullback here on the daily chart. Bitcoin would have to drop quite a bit to make a lower low. So this could just be like a 1 to 4 candle pullback, and then it may continue to make a higher high. Let's take a look here at the 12-hour. 12-hour is still looking decently strong. The 12-hour needs to hold the low of this candle, which is $20,000. So if the 12-hour can hold that $20,000, then Bitcoin is still in good shape and in a bullish posture on the 12-hour chart. But the 4-hour is trading downwards. We're getting lower lows. We're getting lower highs on the 4-hour chart. So the 4-hour chart isn't very promising. And pretty much same thing here on the hourly chart. So the hourly chart really doesn't have me excited to be jumping in. So that's what I'm seeing here. You know, there is a lot of things pointing towards bullish price action on the weekly, but when it comes to these lower level time frames, not so much. So I'm trying to think of Bitcoin going in both directions. And like I said, the 7-day chart is kind of positioned in that bullish direction, but I'm looking for confirmation on these lower level time frames, and I'm not seeing it yet. And that's why I'm not willing to chase it, and I'm not willing to go in over my head and go all back in on Bitcoin. So patience is key. Patience is very, very key. I rather, even if I have to buy Bitcoin a little bit higher, I rather have confirmation on lower level time frames than just to jump in blindly. 30-minute chart, not really giving us a ton of information. Let's take a look here at the 15-minute. 15-minute actually, it has made a lower low, but let's see if it can make a higher high and can continue upwards. This is a 5-minute right here, which is showing some weakness. So I was also mentioning how we got to keep an eye on Ethereum, because in many cases, Ethereum leads the way. I guess you might be wondering, what exactly does that mean by Ethereum leading the way? So when we see a momentum shift from let's say the cryptocurrency space going from bearish to bullish, sometimes Ethereum leads the way. And that's why, and we see that on a more micro perspective of oftentimes we'll see Ethereum up more than Bitcoin on green days. But as you can see here on the weekly chart, Ethereum is trading above this DMA. It's flirting with the 200 DMA. We have a very clear 2 trading above a 1, and very close. This is what we want to keep an eye on. This green crossing over the red. But we got to be careful with this 200 DMA showing resistance there. because as you can see, it's also been very close over here, which was the first week of August, over here, which was the first week of September, and now are we going to see it in the first week of October? It got very close, but it didn't quite happen. So that's why it's important for me to stay patient. Let's quickly look here at the daily chart, also pulling back here a little bit. Let's see this 1 hour, if it's showing any strength. No, not showing any strength on the 1 hour either. Let's see here. So Core Scientific, I spoke about them a few days ago. Obviously, they reported that they are gonna stop making payments on their debt. So not looking too good for Core Scientific, along with many other mining companies. And as you can see here, things really aren't looking so good, down to, I think they hit like an all-time low today, about 17 cents. Gold sitting at 1646. We have a Litecoin sitting at 5507. Coinbase stock, which has definitely dropped down quite a bit. It was just in the 70s last week. It's currently sitting at 63.29. So that's just kind of how things are looking there. Let's go ahead and take a look here. I want to take a look at Tesla, see what Tesla's up to. Obviously, we heard Elon bought Tesla, walked in with a sink to let that sink in. Hey, you know, hopefully it's a positive thing for free speech, but we shall see. I'm really curious to see how Twitter is going to change now that Elon Musk owns Twitter. Let's go ahead and take a look here at majors. So we saw a pullback on Bitcoin today. We also saw a pullback on traditional stocks. So let's quickly go over the meeting tomorrow. This is what many people believe. Many people believe that if we see 50 basis points increase, that Bitcoin's going to take off, stocks are going to take off. I think the announcement's typically in the afternoon as well. I think it's like, yeah, sometime around lunchtime. And then people think that 75 basis points is already priced in. That's kind of like what people are anticipating. But really quickly here, I want to do a deep dive on SPY. Okay, SPY is a very similar structure, kind of on the weekly chart, right? It's positioning, posturing upwards on this on these moving averages. When I'm talking about the green crossing over the red, only real difference here, compared to Bitcoin, is if we saw like a green 2 trading above a green 1. But maybe that comes in next week. This is a daily chart here, which isn't having as much of a pullback as Bitcoin. It's not really cooling off as much compared to how the daily chart on Bitcoin looked. Let's go and take a look here at the 4-hour chart. So actually more strength. So, this is actually interesting. We know Bitcoin typically has a lot of correlation when it comes to traditional stocks. Well, what I'm seeing right here is I am seeing a lot of bullish structure on SPY, which could easily, that kind of momentum, that sentiment, could start bleeding over into the crypto space. But this is a 1-hour chart here, which we're seeing a bit of a pullback and a bit of weakness here. But like I said, showing strength on those other time frames. So I hope you found this video helpful. I want to know what you're doing when it comes to the price of Bitcoin and how you think the announcement on interest rate hikes is going to affect the prices for Bitcoin and traditional markets. So don't forget, down below, $100 in free Bitcoin if you want to get started with iTrust Capital today and get your Roth IRA started. That's all that I have for you today. As always, go out there and create a portfolio that you love.